Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I think we'll start with county commissioners tonight. Brooke?
I'm going to call the February 22nd County Commissioners meeting to order. This meeting is being audio and video recorded. Is there any public comment on items related to the county, not on the county agenda? Not you guys. Okay. Okay. Seeing none, any new business? Hearing none. Approval of minutes and warrants.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor by roll call, Matt Fee.
Aye.
Jason Bridges.
Aye.
Don Holgate.
Aye.
Malcolm McNabb.
Aye.
Okay. Okay, and then we have a business item, request for approval and authorization for town council to execute assent to petition for approval of plan to recognize the 1975 order of taking of Somerset Road and approve registration of the subdivision plan of lot 73, showing lots 213 and 214 on land court plan 28933-11 for 126 Somerset Road. And I believe I have Vicky Marsh on to
Yes.
explain.
Good evening. This is just really a request for an assent to a petition that was made to the land court for the owners of 126 Somerset Road to subdivide their property. Because this property is adjacent to a road that was taken by the county, the land court asked that the county assent to this petition, just to say that that we abide by the line of the boundaries for this particular property, and that there is no adverse impact on the county as a result of this subdivision. And so I look for your approval to be able to execute the assent and the assent for the subdivision plan.
And Vicky, we'd be authorizing you to execute the assent.
Yes, I will. I'll execute on your behalf.
Okay. Any questions or comments from the commissioners?
I think she answered it. When I was looking, I was trying to figure out why we're assenting. Is there stuff that's on town property or vice versa?
No.
Are we on their property or everything's where it's
No.
supposed to be?
No, Matt. It is really, it's become a policy, quite frankly, of the land court recently that any subdivision of registered land with a approval for a subdivision plan, they are looking now to the towns or counties to assent to it, to show that they are not actually encroaching on town or county properties by virtue of their subdivision. So in this case, there is a subdivision plan dividing the property into two lots. It doesn't affect the layout of the taking at all.
Can I move approval?
Yes.
Second.
Okay. Any other comments? No? Okay. All those in favor, Matt
Aye.
Fee, Jason Bridges.
Aye.
Don Holgate.
Aye.
Malcolm McNabb.
Aye.
And I vote aye. That's unanimous. Okay, great.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any other reports from commissioners, comments? Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor by roll call, Matt Fee.
Aye.
Jason Bridges.
Aye.
Don Holgate.
Aye.
Malcolm McNabb.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye.
Thank you, Brooke. Okay, now we'll move over to the select board meeting. We'll call to order the February 22nd select board meeting to order. There's one change to the agenda, the HDC appeal, which is at the end of this agenda. We're going to move to the front because we are going to decide to continue it or not move forward with it. So instead of, if anybody was here waiting online or here, I don't think they should have to wait the whole time if we're going to do one of those two. So we're going to move that up to the front. And would you like to do that right now? Or would after? Yeah, okay, let's do it now. So Erica and Libby, what is our choices are to continue it. That's kind of obvious. We've done it probably 3 times already. Do we want to continue it again, or do we want to say no more, but what does that even mean? What is the procedures for that? What would they have to do? What would it put in place?
So the request is to continue until the April 26th meeting because the applicant has a new application before the HDC. And Attorney Reed is online to speak on that. You can either move to continue it as requested, or you can close the public hearing. But that would essentially, I think, end the appeal because you have to take action on it one way or the other. That makes sense, but Libby might be able to explain it better.
I think it's essentially what Erica said.
Okay, Don.
I mean, I think that it would be unfair to not allow a continuance when they're still in process. I think where we had left it when we continued it was to go try and work it out with the HDC.
And here we are again.
But
And
the
we're gonna-
HDC has been very slow in the process. So.
Okay.
I don't think
That is
that's
true. One of the,
necessarily the applicant's fault.
they've been delayed.
Brooke?
So what I understand is there was a decision by the HDC that's been appealed. In the meantime, they filed a new application with the HDC, and they're kind of holding this appeal open while that application makes its way through.
Yeah, we'll go to Arthur Reed. in a
Yeah, so
second.
defer to
Yeah,
him.
Arthur, do you want to explain?
Yeah, if I can explain to the board, Mr. Chairman. But what's been stated is essentially all accurate. The HDC appeal that we took before the board and went before the board on about a year ago. There was discussion with the HDC members who were present at that time to the effect that they might be amenable to approving the application if we provided additional information that would indicate that the project could be constructed without visibility. So we spent considerable time working on that with environmental specialists as well as the architect on the project and the engineer. And we've been before the HDC once. And at that time, it was continued, and that's subsequent to the last continuance that we obtained from you. We've been before them once, and it was continued by the HDC with the request that we produce a rendering of the proposed work to be done of the proposed swimming pool and the vegetation that would be placed in order to screen it from public view, and therefore we hope allay the HDC's concerns. That rendering has now been prepared, has been submitted to the HDC. I'll be on vacation during a good part of March, but we've worked out with the HDC that it will be heard, we expect, at the March 28 meeting, which is right after I get back. So the hope would be that we'll go before the HDC then. We'll either get an approval or we'll be denied. And if we're denied, we'll be back before you with the appeal. And if we're approved, then the appeal will become moot. So therefore, we're asking for the continuance until the April 26th meeting to give us a chance to go before the HDC and then determine exactly where we stand.
Okay, thank you, Arthur. How's everybody
Thank
feel?
you.
Can I just ask one more
Yep.
question? It's my understanding that this denial was on a technical, it was because the applicant didn't sign an extension for the HDC, not that it was denied on the merits. Am I mistaken?
I'm trying to think back on that. Actually, you may be right, but it had been before the HDC, and we had I was not involved in those proceedings before the HDC. I came into it after there had been a determination that it was denied. And I believe that the HDC had requested the At that time, the filing of additional information, as I say, I wasn't involved. It got to the point where there was a denial, and that's what we appealed from, came before you, and then, as I said, wound up back on a new application before the HDC, which is the way that they like to handle it, rather than strictly speaking as a remand. And that's what's pending at the present time.
Does everybody understand now?
I do.
Yep. Malcolm, Matt, Dawn? Everybody okay with the,
I'll make a
Continuing?
motion to continue it to April 26th.
Yeah, I'll second.
right? Any other comments?
Michael, I don't want them to feel pressured that they have to, change it or I don't want them to feel like they were dumping it back in, but if they've got, since there's another application there, I'm fine with it.
All right, all those in favor by roll call, Matt,
Aye.
Dawn,
Aye.
Brooke?
Aye.
Malcolm?
Aye.
And Jason's aye.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Arthur. All right, just wanted to get that out of the way in case somebody was, waiting to see if we were going to discuss it or not.
Yeah, we appreciate that.
Thank you, Mr. Reed. Okay, announcements, Libby?
This meeting is being video and audio recorded. There is no select board meeting next week. That's next Wednesday, March 1st, due to school vacation week. The next board meeting will be held on Wednesday, March 8th. And that's it for announcements.
Thank you. Any select board announcements or comments to begin? Okay, follow-up comments from prior select board meetings. This is a follow-up on a prior comment from February 15th regarding short-term rental certificate of registration. I think we have Roberto Santamaria.
Good evening. Just really quick update. We are actually working with Granicus on an outreach plan that starts tomorrow. They connected with us today. The online portal that we are hoping for is being worked on. They're looking to do a phased approach over the course of the next few months. They are going to be reaching out to STR homeowners that they see that shows up in their software. The host compliance software actually did do a training with us last week. So all of our staff is now trained in the host compliance software, and we're starting to use it to get used to it. And we're hoping to be able to get off the ground really soon, as soon as they have their back end done. The 24-hour hotline is already up and active. Obviously, we're not checking it as of right now, but it is active and the phone number is available. We're doing what they call user acceptance testing, which is what we're doing right now, and that started today. So we're moving forward. It's just when you're creating a new software straight from the back end, it takes a while.
So in the next couple months, people will be contacted or they'll have to register?
Yes, they will be contacted. So what is set up is they get what we call a first notice. So that's already been approved by Granicus. Everything's good to go. So they will send out a letter to the STRs that they are able to have found through their web crawler. They will get it, and it will provide a website, a password, and a link that they can use. And that will load up the information that they have, and then you create a user profile and you register from there.
And then an outreach plan will be, put it out everywhere so everybody knows.
Correct. So their outreach coordinator contacted us today, and they will be coordinating with Florencia and I over the course of the next few weeks to start getting information out.
Okay. Thank you, Roberto.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, is there any public comment tonight for items that are not on the agenda? Kathy?
Can I ask some more questions about,
We usually don't go back and forth on the follow-up, but you can do it now and then we can get back to you.
okay.
Yeah.
All right. So just a couple of questions and some recommendations for the short-term rental website. So one would be, and these were all sent to Roberto Santamaria ahead of time, so he has them, but I just wanted to read them for the record. One recommendation would be to allow a few volunteers from this short-term rental owner community to preview the registration process and contribute to improving the federal frequently asked questions documentation that was promised as part of this. We thought we could help reduce the burden on the Board of Health staff at Go Live. That's just one offer we'd like to put out there. Also, would recommend, we really still want to understand that why the Nantucket STR liability insurance requirements that are on, that are there are different than what Massachusetts requires. So there's been a lot of confusion about that from owners who are concerned about Massachusetts requires that you have $1 million of liability insurance per rental, and the town requires it by event. That's a different definition. We've looked at Granicus's other websites, and it seems that language may have come from there rather than from the state. So there's a lot of concern. Just want to be compliant. People want to really understand what those mean and how you can get the proper assurance so that when you fill out your application that you're doing that properly. Other question was about the attestation for owner operators to attest to the following. Please clarify why this attestation is needed to register. So that's an attestation that the owner, an operator are in compliance with all applicable federal, state, and local laws, including to but not limited to, and so forth and so on. It just seems to be an awful lot to be able to know all those laws and make sure that they are. It'd be nice if they were all someplace so that we could read them easily. And I think there was been discussion before, Roberto, and clarifications to a locally designated person in the event of a true health or safety emergency. And so several of these things, if they were just clarified in the frequently asked questions, that would be in writing, people would understand them better and be able to comply. And then another couple of questions would be, are people supposed to register for 2023 whenever the portal comes up? And that applies to 2023, and then you register again in November for 2024. So is there a two-step process that has to happen this year that might be a little different? There's been questions about how the $250 per registry fee will be used this year, when we were hearing that there won't be any enforcement, which is part of the fee was to pay for the enforcement. So there's been some questions about that. And then I'm glad that the reporting issue is out there. So there's an 800 number for compliance. I think that's a good idea. And then there were questions also about posting the exit signs in the homes where they had to be in every bedroom. We all know Nantucket has a lot of upside down homes where their bedrooms are on the first floor. Many of them have doors directly to the outside. So there's some clarification about how many signs you have to have in those bedrooms if it's on the first floor is another question that people had. And that's pretty much it. Just some clarifications on those and an offer to help from some of the STR owner community with the web portal. And then one more question is the letter that's going to go out. Where is the address coming from for that letter? Off-island resident, year-round residents may have different addresses, and people are concerned that they would not get that letter if it got mailed to their Nantucket address if they live off-island. So that was a concern. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Kathy. Any other public comment in here tonight before we go online?
Is this where I can do the Curtis thing?
Yeah.
Can I speak for somebody else who can't be here because it's Ash Wednesday?
Aren't we, is it on the agenda?
No, it's just part of public comment. I'm not sure when. Appropriate to do that. Public comment in general, so that it can be addressed.
Yes, I was just making sure it wasn't on the fees. Right. Yes. I was just making sure it wasn't nothing like that was on the agenda.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm putting on my Curtis Barnes hat. He couldn't be here. It's Ash Wednesday. He's serving at St. Paul's tonight for the Ash Wednesday service. And he said, since I was going to be here, he asked me to read this on his behalf. His concern is that last Thursday, he attended the Board of Health meeting and asked the board to reconsider the proposed $250 registration fee based on the following information. Number one, with approximately 2,000 STRs identified through state records, The $250 per unit fee would produce $500,000 in fee income. If registrations increased to 2,200 as projected, the fee income would be $550,000. Number two, allocating the $120,000 Granicus contract and the new upgraded $110,000 CBI fee to SDR expenses totals $230,000. This would result in an excess of income over projected expenses of $270,000. According to town council, it is illegal to charge fees in excess of the actual expense. Thus, the town would be expected to refund the excess cost to anyone who had paid the $250 fee. Can you imagine how complicated that would be? And the probability would be that the town would try to justify some way to keep the money instead of processing all the refunds. At the Board of Health meeting, I was informed that the board had not made the decision independently on the fees, that it was voted at a joint session of the Board of Health and the Select Board, and that a joint meeting of the boards would be required to adjust the fees. With that in mind, I would ask town administration to schedule such a joint meeting to review and hopefully adjust the initial fee to a fair and realistic amount of $150 per registration. After the first year, that fee could be reviewed and adjusted as necessary, a much easier process based on actual experience than trying to credit or refund the excess fee to 2,000 plus homeowners. For the record, and as I have reported, Mrs. Curtis, on both boards, Yarmouth charges $80 per year for all registered rentals and Barnstable charges $95 per year. On that basis alone, $250 per rental unit appears to be excessive. I trust that both boards and town administration will see this as a fair and appropriate way to proceed as we all work together to get this STR registration process underway. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy / Curtis. Any other comment here tonight? Okay, we can go online.
You've got Megan Perry.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, go ahead.
I actually was calling in with a follow-up to comments, public comments that I've made and members of the community have made at the February 1st Select Board meeting, the February 8th Select Board meeting, and the February 15th Select Board meeting, which have kind of gone unanswered. And so my thought is, if this board's not willing to answer some of the public comments and make an action plan to hold people accountable with regards to not informing boards, commission, town council regarding conservation management permits that are sent to them, might I suggest this board make a policy regarding matters of importance to town boards, commissions, town council, and the public, so that those wanting to be informed will be, and staff will not be left to make decisions regarding the public interest that they will not be accountable for. Maybe this is just an informational comment on my part, but spending over $300,000 in legal fees on Surfside Crossing and the public not being informed regarding stuff coming down from the state, I think there needs to be a policy regarding it. And I think the public comment questions need to be answered. I know it's been over 3 weeks since those comments have come out. And I keep seeing that not as follow-up on your agenda. So it's a bit puzzling to me. Hopefully this board would consider making a policy regarding that if you're not going to hold people accountable for the decisions they're making regarding the public interest. So thank you very much for taking this comment. And I do hope it's more than just informational.
Thank you, Megan. Is there any other comments tonight for items not on the agenda? Okay. There's no new business that I know of. Need a motion for approval of minutes of February 15th, approval of payroll warrants for February 19th, and treasury warrants for February 22nd.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor by roll call: Matt,
Aye.
Don,
Aye.
Brooke,
Aye.
Malcolm. I saw him say aye.
Yep.
And Jason, that passes unanimous. Citizen Department Committee request. We have a resignation acceptance from the Zoning Board of Appeals alternate. Anybody like to make a motion to accept
Oh,
the resignation?
Move to accept. And do we send a letter of thanks?
Second.
All those in favor by roll call, Matt,
Aye.
Don,
Aye.
Brooke,
Aye.
Malcolm,
Aye.
Jason, I. Thank you for your service. Real estate items. We have 4 of these. I believe we have Vicky and Ken here to take us through these. Ken, do you want to do number 1?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. The first one is a grant of easements from the Nantucket Conservation Foundation, which enables the town to complete the drainage and flood control project in the area of Council Springs. It permits the town to control the water level in the pond and manage the vegetation, pumping, and dredging of the pond, and to allow for the pedestrian and vehicular access on the property. The property at 112 Orange Street will be conveyed from the Nantucket Conservation Foundation to the Nantucket Islands Land Bank, subject to these easements. This has been reviewed by Town Council, and we recommend approval and execution of the acceptance of easement by the Select Board.
Thank you, Ken. Any questions or comments? Matt, anything?
All right.
Move approval.
Second.
All those in favor by roll call, Matt,
Aye.
Don,
Aye.
Brooke,
Aye.
Malcolm,
Aye.
and Jason, I. Thank you, Ken. Number 2.
The next item is the conveyance of the Hinsdale Road parcel. It's subject to the town's reserved easements for the development of walking trails, bicycle paths for use by the general public, and for the installation of underground utilities and drainage at the town's discretion. The conveyance is to the land bank, and it's in conjunction with the conveyance of the easements over 112 Orange Street that we just talked about relative to getting the Council Springs area finally straightened out. It has been reviewed by Town Council, and we recommend approval and execution of the deed by the board.
Thank you, Ken. Questions, comments?
Comment. I'm in favor of this. I'm glad that we can have bike paths, et cetera, on it. I sort of, as much as it pains me to say, I think at some point, some of those roads, I've always thought that road was going to have to be opened up somehow because of how bad Old South is. Hinsdale's back behind over there, and it's sort of parallel. But I think people have to start thinking about connecting roads, sort of like Rugged Road and Tacoma and these all the way through and all the way across, and getting a grid pattern, or we are not going to be able to move in this area of the island. When we've got 30-something thousand cars now at peak, and it's only going up. And so we really need to start thinking about that. I think this one will be good as a bike path and et cetera, but we have to just be careful in the future, be careful. And we should start thinking about how are we going to, connect a grid pattern so there's some way to move. It's going to get to the point where we're going to have an hour and a half drive down Old South Road, and that is going to wreak havoc on everybody. So anyway, but I'm in favor.
Okay. Any other comments or motion?
Move approval.
Second.
All those in favor by roll call, Matt,
Aye.
Don,
Aye.
Brooke,
Aye.
Malcolm,
Aye.
and it's an aye for me. Thank you. Number 3, Ken.
The next item is the conveyance of the parcels and the easement area to the Nantucket Islands Land Bank, which is on vacant land of Magnolia Avenue from Ocean Avenue to the Atlantic Ocean out in Siasconset. And what it does is it allows them to construct, maintain, and repair the stairs and provide public access to the beach as authorized by the town meeting vote at the 2018 annual town meeting and the special legislation enacted by Chapter 190 of the Acts of 2018. Purchase price is $1, as the land bank will be undertaking the stair project and the management of the property to provide access to the public in the future. Has been reviewed by Town Council, and we recommend the approval and execution of the deed.
Okay. Any thoughts, comments?
Move approval.
Second.
All those in favor, Matt,
Aye.
Don,
Aye.
Brooke,
Aye.
Malcolm,
Aye.
it's an aye for me.
And congratulations, Ken, on extracting $1 from the land bank. That's good work.
Yeah, Way to go, Ken. Number
Right,
four.
okay. The last item is the disposition of a parcel that we took by eminent domain from as pursuant to Article 98 of the 2014 annual town meeting. The sale is subject to the terms of the Nantucket yard sale program and is authorized pursuant to Article 1999 of the 2014 annual town meeting vote. Is being sold to the abutter of the land at 64 Pocomo Road. There are no resiliency issues, and the purchase price of $34,600 was reviewed with the assessor and approved by REAC at its meeting on February 12th. We recommend the approval and the execution of the documents by the Select Board. Town Council has prepared the documents with the approval of Buyer's Council. I'm happy to answer any questions with respect to this.
Thanks, Ken. Thoughts or comments?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor, Matt,
Aye.
Dawn,
Aye.
Brooke?
Aye.
Malcolm?
Aye.
And that's an aye for me.
And
you, Ken.
that's it from real estate for today. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Ken. Thanks, Vicky.
Yep.
Okay, we're gonna move on to public hearings. We'll open the public hearing to consider an application for a new common victualler with seasonal all alcoholic beverage restaurant license for 1 Broad Street LLC DBA Surfside. Jared Smith, manager for premises located at 2 Broad Street. Hi, Amy.
Hi. Just a second, I lost my place here. So as you mentioned, we are here for a new liquor license application for 2 Broad Street, formerly Easy Street Cantina. This will be DBA Surfside. Normally, when about 9 times out of 10, when I'm up here talking about a new license, we're dealing with a location that has a history of a license, either immediately beforehand or in the recent past. In this case, we are here to review a new license at a location that does not historically have one. Our staff did find back in the late 70s the package store there. I think Henry Fee transferred to Mary Walsh in the late 70s, correct? Yeah, okay. But that was the last in that area. Obviously, next door, that there was a restaurant, and the block over there are, but that traditionally in this block that I defined from 2 Broad Street to 12, where Juice Bar is, traditionally has not had liquor licenses at these locations. So a couple things. So I'm going to go through a little bit more detail with you, especially Brooke and Malcolm. I don't know that we've dealt with this in your tenure thus far. But per the Select Board Guide for the state of Massachusetts, when we talk about this, we're talking about granting a license. An applicant in this case must show that all necessary requirements and qualifications that we discuss have been met in the application process, and that granting of this license is in the public interest. Selectmen must consider the public interest when deciding whether to issue or deny a license. If the board refuses to grant a license, the decision must be for sufficient reasons. The decision to deny a license application or to refuse to renew a license cannot be arbitrary or capricious. Depending on the particular license, there may be specific standards that need to be met to grant the license. Now, when we talk about liquor licenses, the standards that we follow, we discuss every time we get to this type of application, right? The 5 standards that we go by for liquor licensing. And again, generally, when we're talking about an existing location, the weight of the decision tends to go on, are there going to be major changes to this location? Is there construction? What is the reputation of the applicant that's going to take over? That's generally where the attention lies. In this case, certainly those things are important too as well. But we're also going to discuss the location and whether or not there is public interest and it is not going to be detrimental to the area to add a liquor license. And in this case, that adds extra weight to the applicant when I'm done to get up here and discuss the need for this license and why that it won't be a detriment to that location. So we will go over, I'm going to kill this thing. Here we go. We're going to go over those 5 things real quick so that what you're going to need to determine when you're making this decision. And then certainly when we get to motion time, I can go over those options for you as well. But these standards are per MGL 138, chapter 23, and the decision of Licensing Board of Boston that we refer to, that these are the areas, if there were a denial, it needs to be based on one of these. There's issue in one of these areas, and approval means that you don't see any issues in any of these areas. Number one, again, this one is big here, the appropriateness of a liquor license at a particular location. This location was previously licensed as a common vicular only for the past 3-4 decades, only with no liquor service. The area, again, of Lower Broad Street has traditionally been alcohol-free area with approximately 6 food and beverage shops, mostly takeout with bench seating across the street area. Now, again, when we discuss location, when you think about this and whether or not it's detrimental or beneficial to the location, you're defining what that location is. They can say there's liquor a block away. Well, are you determining the lot and the location itself? It can be the block. The location can be the neighborhood, the island, different areas. There's no specific definition of what the location is, and you can determine that yourself. Secondly, again, we talk about the number of existing dispensaries in town. This number is fluctuating. We're at a point of about 100 plus or minus, and depending on my email this week, there's a lot more coming and going. So we're about 100 liquor license, which is much more than most towns of our size. And that includes both the package stores. Again, I broke it down in the AIS there for that, what we have. Views of the inhabitants of locality in which a license is sought. I did not have any written comments that I can share with you. Again, if there's other verbals tonight, you can listen to that. That would be something to consider. Again, traffic, noise, and size for new locations. There's no significant change in this case, the number of seats, no outdoor entertainment, interior only. That will tend not to be an issue. And again, it is in the downtown area. The sort of operation that carries the license and the reputation of the applicant, which we deal with most cases. Again, this is a management team that also operates Millie's Restaurant in Nantucket and other restaurants outside of Massachusetts. I've only dealt with their attorneys in this case, so it'll be to you to discuss with them their operations and who will be responsible for that. Additionally, I included in there for your review some of the similar type of situations where we had a new location and what the decisions were in the time we've been doing this, maybe 6-7 years. This goes back. On-premise locations, we had 45 Surfside, which was denied initially and asked to reapply with beer and wine instead of all alcohol, with exterior service there denied for several years until it was recently approved. Graydon House being an inn, they added in 2016. We added Dreamland and Museum, which were new locations. However, we have been doing one-day permits for them for years and decided to upgrade to that. Same with White Heron Theater. PPX and the Beat, again, moved into a location that did not have alcohol downtown, and they split and added there. We also have a history of some denials, but they were all in the off-premise area. Again, we have the list there for the past 5-6 years that were eventually approved at later dates. Again, when you get to the discussion for motions and such, I can go over the various options and what the process is should there be an approval of the application with conditions, a denial of any reason, or denial and a reapplication, what all those processes are for the applicant. So I will leave that there for any questions and discussion with the applicant.
Thank you, Amy. Would the applicant like to speak?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Rick Bodette for the applicant, One Broad LLC. First of all, I want to thank the board for taking this on. I know it's not a part of your regular licensing hearing, so we appreciate it greatly because we very much want to get the ball rolling and hopefully get an approval tonight and send everything up to Boston. As Amy said, she used to be that I'd stand up here and tell you everything about the restaurant, but she does a pretty good job these days of taking that away from me. But I will tell you that we are applying for a seasonal all alcoholic restaurant license in this location at 2 Broad Street. The name of the restaurant is going to be Surfside, and the applicants operate similar restaurants off island with the same name. And so it's a proven track record that they have that they wanted to bring to Nantucket. Would also add, as Amy mentioned, that there's same operators that operate Millie's in the West End. Essentially, what they have here planned is a Mexican themed restaurant, salads, tacos, and associated children's menu. They want to have a family friendly place here. And we have applied for an all alcoholic beverage license, primarily because they plan to serve pre-batched cocktails such as margaritas that would go along with their and beer along with their Mexican theme. I can tell you that there's not any bar planned for this restaurant. There's not going to be any bottles behind the takeout counter. It's essentially a fast food restaurant where you can complement your meal with a beer or a margarita. And I know Amy discussed some of the criteria that you have to decide this application. I can tell you that we also, as part of our application, wish to limit the license to serving alcohol until 10 p.m. We do wish to serve food until 2 a.m. We also wish to serve food in the morning, breakfast to the crowd going to the steamship or what have you. The proposed manager is Jared Smith. He is on Zoom, and I'm sure he'll want to introduce himself as well. We also have members of the management team. David Scribner will probably want to say hello as well. But just in terms of some of those criteria that Amy mentioned, and I'm happy to answer any questions you have, obviously. But in terms of the appropriateness of the location, I think Amy's right. A lot of, for a number of years, this particular premises has not been licensed. But she did mention Schooners across the street. That was licensed for many, many years, right next door. The Dreamland is licensed 2 doors down. The Yacht Club across the street, the Whaling Museum across the street. So there are a number of licenses. It may not be in the 4 or 5 fast food locations right next door, but there are a number of licenses in this area. Obviously, I don't think there's any issue about creating traffic or anything like that. There are a number of localities in the area, but obviously, and I'll let my clients speak as well, but I think it's important to look at the reputation of the applicant. They started Millie's about 13 years ago, and I stood not in this room, but in the courthouse and the entire neighborhood. And I don't know, I don't think anybody on the board was there then. The entire neighborhood came out, told us it wouldn't work, told us it was a bad idea. And they've been wildly successful there. They've been responsible owners there, responsible operators. And they're going to do the same here. They've hired a responsible manager who has a lot of experience both on Nantucket and off Nantucket managing restaurants. And they'll do a great job. And they're really excited to bring this concept to the downtown as well. So, so happy to answer any questions. And I think at this time, maybe I'll turn it over to David Scribner, who just wants to introduce himself as one of the owners. And I think after which Jared should probably say hello as well.
Thank you. Hi, I'm David Scribner. I'm one of the owners of this new concept that we're bringing to Nantucket. It's not actually a new concept. We have 3 other surf sides in the Washington, D.C. area. So this is something that we've been practicing for, I think, when was the first surf side open? Probably, yeah, 2008. So it's a fast casual concept, just so everybody understands that. It's not, it's counter service, where you will order from a kiosk and the food is quickly prepared and put together. Everything is carry out in disposable containers. We just feel like it's part of our concept to include margaritas and draft beer as a complement to the food. So we don't really actually see this as a place where somebody's having, multiple cocktails and creating like a bar scene. That's not at all what's happening here. This is just something that goes along with the food that we serve, and is really an integral part of our concept. We have been, like I said, doing this for some time. We feel, we feel very confident that we we operate responsibly and we don't have infractions. We don't have problems with any of our licensing in any of our other restaurants, including Millie's. We've had a pretty good track record out there, if not impeccable, in 13 years. So having said all that, I appreciate it. And if you have any questions for me, I'd be happy to answer them. I understand. Thanks again for your attention. Thanks.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, ask Jared to introduce himself as well.
Thank you for the time, Mr. Chairman. I just want to introduce myself. My name is Jared Smith. I am the manager of Surfside. I've been with this company about 8 years, different concepts. I've spent the last 2 summers with Millie's out in the West End. And I also operate one of our other Surfsides here in Washington, D.C. To everything that Rick and David just said, we have a pretty solid proven track record of being responsible operators of alcohol. All of our managers get certified through the proper channels to know how to responsibly serve it. Like David said, there's not going to be an actual bar in this Surfside. All of our margaritas are pre-batched, which helps control not only inventory volume, but there's not going to be bottles laying around. There's not going to be shots being had, heavy pours. So kind of leaning away from, we're not looking to have a bar. As David said, we're looking to have something to complement your tacos and your burritos and your quesadillas. And within my 8 years with the company and my 15 years experience in restaurants, we've never had a single alcohol infraction and always been able to serve responsibly. So just as a testament to what we do as owners and operators.
Thank you, Jared. Thanks for speaking. Amy?
Additionally, one thing about that, and I know that we put conditions on other locations, and the question I would have is just trying to be consistent with what we've told other folks, especially those with sidewalk seating and that such thing, is if the person coming in and ordering the drinks are taking it themselves to the table. We've talked about that a lot, whether there's going to be table service of alcohol. Another location with a similar type of model said, oh, can I just give the person the alcohol and they can take it out? So again, you don't see them go to the table, they're going to the table. That's just another area in question to make sure that we're consistent with how we rule on that. So that would be something to talk about.
Thanks, Amy. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm happy to see no music outside, no amplified music in or out. I think that's good. I'm happy to see the 10 o'clock, no alcohol after 10. One question I have looking at you're going to have a window on the front next to the architect going out. So that'll be at 10 o'clock, the outside will be closed, the inside will be closed. It'll just be a takeout window till 2, or is that going to stay? Is the outside going to stay going?
And correct me if I'm wrong, please, but my understanding is that it'll all still be open. Obviously, you can't serve alcohol out of the takeout window anyway, just so everyone's
Right. No,
clear.
we understand that.
But yeah, I think people would still be able to sit down inside to get their food after the alcohol service stops.
Right.
The pickup area for the.
Can you come to the,
Yeah.
Sorry.
we can hear you, but people
Yeah.
listening.
I'm sorry. The pickup area for the food is going to be inside the restaurant. So you order at a counter, and then the food is assembled and put in an area right by the front door, actually, where you would pick up the food. So it doesn't go through the window, back and forth through the window.
I got you. So there's not a pickup window on the front of the building.
Well,
People are going to come inside.
yeah, that's the idea. Now, we do have a window there, and but that's not the plan to have the food go in and out of that window. No.
I got you.
Malcolm?
Sure.
Yeah, I need a little clarification. I think you've said it, but so it's a takeout restaurant. I mean, you're not taking out the liquor, the margaritas and the beer and walking down the street with them, correct?
Absolutely not, Malcolm. I don't believe that's allowed anyway. So
That's what I was wondering. So it would be, you could take out your food, but not your alcohol.
That's
Absolutely.
correct. I can
Absolutely.
clarify on that
Correct.
too. It's a fast casual style. So everything is served in a to-go container so that you can either take the food with you or eat it there, but the alcohol is only inside. And there's the one entrance and exit by the front that then is patrolled by our staff as far as that.
Yes, that was my next question. I mean, I can imagine people sneak out their beer and their margaritas or.
Right. It's the same principle that any other restaurant has on the island as well. So most of the time people are pretty good about it, but our staff is heavily trained to look out for that and make sure that it doesn't happen and that it's not encouraged to begin with.
And Mr. Chairman, I and through you, most of the seating in this restaurant is on the patio area. And that patio area has to conform to the patio guidelines that the ABCC sets. As an example, to respond to Malcolm's question, you can't just have an opening in and out. I mean, it has to be contained. I think traditionally in this area, there was a step up to the patio that has to be enclosed. And that's what we've shown on the plans that we've submitted, is an enclosed area that's contiguous to the main restaurant.
Thank you. Amy, do you have a comment or?
No, just previously before, as far as takeout alcohol, that ends April the 1st. We had COVID related allowance, and I don't know that will be extended or made law. So right now, April 1st.
Right, yeah, as of April 1st, but if it's extended, then it could be. Like, and could we say no to this or to any other if we didn't want it?
No, that hasn't been the case. I don't think they're going to extend it because COVID related conditions are not being extended, and the state already told me to tell everyone to make sure they remember this. But I know there's a couple bills floating around, as there generally are, but I have no indication that it'll become any sort of regulation.
And this is a public hearing. Can we go to Bruce Mandel? Go ahead, Bruce.
Good evening. Thank you. I just wanted to make a few points based on Nantucket's experience with Millie's in Nantucket, of course, over the years. The Nantucket Conservation Association has been working very hard over the years to bring certain neighborhood disturbances and disruptions into better alignment with the peaceful nature that we like. And I just wanted to bring up some issues that it would be helpful if the folks who want to open up this place on the Strip might take the time to address. One of the major issues we had was we never could find an MOD manager on duty if there was a problem. And we had a meeting with Millie's managers, and they agreed to several very important things. And one was to have a manager on duty's phone number that we could call and would be answered and would not go to voicemail. That didn't happen. There were parking issues, and I can imagine that a popular restaurant like this on the Strip, I'd like to figure out how the town's going to deal with that parking, especially where takeout people are stopping real quick, getting online, trying to grab their stuff, double parking, things of that nature. The litter from the carryout is astounding in Nantucket. It ranges all the way from Baltimore Street to the Nantucket Beach. And of course, in Millie's defense, they say once we sell something and someone carries it out, we can't be responsible for their irresponsible behavior. And that makes sense. So we negotiated with them that they would help us pick up the litter. And that lasted for about 2 weeks. We had some issues with employees were supposed to get NERDA passes, so they didn't take up parking. Not happening. As far as we know, and the employees don't know what we're talking about. Crowds at Millie's in Nantucket often exceeds the limit permitted. In some cases, they're allowed about 107 or 124. We've counted up to 200. And of course, it's very difficult to get someone at night to come out and deal with it. And that was an important issue. And then, of course, the people hanging out on the bike path and around the neighborhood and whatnot late at night. And, Nantucket's different. The people want to go to the sunset, they want to enjoy the beach and whatnot. But these are issues that we had with this management that basically have never been resolved to the satisfaction of the community, even though we've had several very peaceful, calm meetings with them. So, sorry, Amber Alert.
Thank you, Bruce.
Thank you for your time, but I think those are issues that need to be discussed and hopefully resolved.
Thank you, Bruce. This is a public hearing. Any comment? Amy and Rick both.
I don't know if I should just follow up on that. And all those issues are known and certainly have occurred. There are some issues. Millie's is a very different animal in this case. I assume it would go towards reputation of the applicant, but I don't think it is something that can be used in this case. But those are indeed valid issues that need to be dealt with on that license itself and should be dealt with directly on that license.
Thank you, Rick.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I mean, happy to answer any questions you guys have about any of those specifically, but in a general sense, I will say they are issues. The owners at Nantucket Millie's do yearly deal with those issues. They voluntarily pick up the trash there. They bring it to their own dumpster. It doesn't happen for 2 weeks. It happens all summer. And by the way, Libby makes sure that she holds us accountable on that because Libby was the one that asked us to do that, and we did. So, and I would say to Mr. Mandel, through you, sir, that they should take some of those issues up with the planning board, because those are really requirements of the planning board special permit, that employees have bus passes, that the employees do not park there. Those are the real concerns if that's happening, and that the manager has to have his cell phone available. Those are conditions of our special permit. And Millie's, I don't know that they have anything to do with anything downtown, since there are no parking requirements. But in any event, that is something that they should address.
Well, thank you, Rick. But it does matter, because it's, we can't say it's a pro to have the same experience people, and Jared, 2 years on the island, like that's a pro, right? And not also look at reputation on the other side too. So I think we have to look at both. Brooke?
Yeah, I just want to be clear. People are getting alcohol at a counter in a takeout container and then taking it themselves out onto the patio.
Yes.
And sitting at a table.
Yes, that's where our tables are.
My concern, Mr. Chair, is that area is a huge teen hangout up and down Broad Street at those takeout restaurants. And the idea that an unsupervised or relatively unsupervised patio could lead to alcohol being handed over the hedge to underage kids who hang out in large numbers in that area is a great concern to me. So I want to just say that. And that model of it not being served and monitored by on a really ongoing, consistent basis, someone being on that patio at all times, observing what's going on, would be at a minimum requirement that I would have if we were to approve this. But it's a place where our kids hang out, and there are not that many places where young people can hang out in town that sort of feels like a little pocket of alcohol-free location.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Brooke. Rick?
Yeah. Thank you, Brooke. I think that's a valid concern. And I think obviously, we're going to have people bussing tables there. We do intend to have that supervised. I have a 14-year-old daughter and a 16-year-old son, and they love the Strip. They're there every night in the summer. And to be perfectly honest with you, the least of my worries is that they're going to get alcohol from a licensed establishment. And the reason is twofold. Number one, these licenses are important to the businesses. They don't mess around. They are not going to let anybody give anything over the fence. And the second reason is because, and I can say this because my daughter's playing a hockey game right now and my son is off island, I track their phones. I know where they are. They are everywhere downtown. They're not just on the strip. They're walking by the gazebo. They're going to Jack and Charlie's to get ice cream. They're going by Crew. They're going to the wharf. Any of those places, someone could hand them a drink. It's truly, as a parent, not a major concern of mine at all. I have more concerns about what they do at Children's Beach, quite honestly. So it is obviously a valid concern and it's important. But these licenses are really important to the owners who have them, and they don't mess around with them. They take it very seriously.
Thank you. Amy?
Yeah, I want to follow up, and the reason I brought this up in the first place is trying to be consistent with the conditions that we've applied elsewhere, especially in the case of the sidewalk seating, which we'll be dealing with next month. One of them said, again, can I do that? And the condition we put on it is that there was at least active service, and they're not taking it out to a table and handing it to the 16-year-old with them. Certain things like that to make sure that they're not leaving with it. It's easier here because their area is a little bit more contained. But again, just considering the conditions we put on others and making sure we're consistent in that. Not necessarily a server the whole time, but to have an active management of that space at all times would be a condition that would be recommended.
Thank you.
Hey, Amy, if I could ask you through Jason, any of the other locations on the strip have the ability for people to sit and drink alcohol inside the space? If a request were to come to us that you did this here, can we do it as well?
Could they possibly do that?
Yeah.
Yeah, it would certainly set a precedent. Again, this location itself, these areas have not traditionally had it, but they can at any time. Okay. In this location, and the former operator had asked about it several times when the building was sold. So this has been kind of coming for a while, but yeah, they can certainly do that, and it would set a precedent. So yes.
But you mean they would have to apply for a license?
Oh, absolutely.
That's what you mean.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And if I'm understanding correctly, is this setting a precedent? Can they now do that? But there's only, I think, stubbies with a couple seats. Mostly there's nowhere else there that would have sufficient space for that. So it's mostly just takeout. So yeah, there wouldn't be, except for Stubbies has 2 tables. So I think that's it.
Yeah, previously that my family owned that for 30 years, 40 years, long time, something like that. And this is one of those interesting locations that is, it's similar to the Brotherhood that backs up to a residential area, and to the Lobster Trap that backs right up to a residential area, where we have to be more careful with the hours and the time and the impact it will have on the neighborhood. So I was happy to see 10 o'clock because there are still neighbors there. The Judsons are still there across. My parents didn't do alcohol there specifically because it was the strip and young kids and everything. And we didn't allow our tenants, Bart, who was there, wanted to do alcohol, and we had that precluded from the lease. It wasn't a town thing. It was a family thing for that general area. The area has changed. I could see there being some service, but I think it has to be very controlled and start slow and prove it. Prove that it's not going to be an issue would be my sense of this. I think you're going to have a lot harder issue than keeping people out of those bathrooms, because it's the nearest public, quote unquote, public bathroom. You're going to have one person just monitoring the bathrooms all day, or you're going to have to allow it. It's constant. Talk to Bart. You're going to have problems with the porch area. And you think that, we're going to put high bushes and people won't get in. He tried to keep people out of there, and they would break the fence and they'd break the bushes and they cut the bushes down to make sure they can get in and out. So you're going to have somebody in that, I think it should be a condition that there's somebody on the porch, if we're allowed to do that kind of condition, that there'd be someone on the porch monitoring it at all times, and my suggestion to you would be not to run that, or maybe we can make this a condition, not to run it late in your first year, run it till 10, or, stop liquor at 10, get everyone off the porch at 11, see how it goes, and run the takeout inside. Otherwise, I think you're going to have half of the people that are out in the street now waiting for food, et cetera, are going to be inside and on your porch. And so I think that there's more demand down there. You guys do great food, you do a great service. But I think there's more demand down there than you might know. And I think you'd be well served, whether we put the conditions on you or whether you just, it's easier to let the reins out than is to pull them back in. So you're better off to start carefully and make sure that it's not going to turn into a mess, because then we're here talking about it this summer or next year and pulling things back. So I think it's the gateway to Nantucket. It's it is where all the young kids hang out, and it's, and I could see if we don't do this well, that we could all be getting a lot of hassle. Let's put it that way. So.
Thank you, Matt. Don, then Malcolm.
With us issuing it as an all alcohol license, which I get because they want to serve the margaritas, can they easily later just turn it into a full bar?
They would have to come back as far as an alteration of premise.
Right, but they wouldn't
they
have to
could.
get a new license from the state.
They would have to modify the license.
Okay.
So there's no special permit on this location, right? So it's the when we planning board, but any sort of significant change to the location or to the service would require an alteration of premise of the license. So they would have to come back for a public hearing
To
before you-
us
for that.
and go back to the ABCC.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Can I have a follow-up question on that? Just to clarify. So what if they continue the same procedure with margaritas? They do Long Islands and then gin and tonics, and then there's 10 of them. Not saying you guys will do that, but we have to think about everything.
They could.
And that wouldn't have to come back to us.
Nope.
Okay.
Nope.
But it would, but all canned, similar beverages. Yes, okay.
Yeah.
Then the other thing was it Nantucket that was they were doing the sidewalk seating,
Right.
and we said you have to, and they did beer and wine.
Correct. And that was who I was referring to, who I
Yeah.
spoke to recently. And they did till 8 p.m. alcohol service, and then they're doing takeout until 1 a.m. So that was the most recent. That's similar. That location did have previous all alcohol licenses, but now they're beer and wine since it's so smaller. And I have some concerns about the sidewalk seating. I need to talk to the state because they're not controlled as much. But again, the conditions we did put on it is active service, if not directly to each table, but someone managing that space.
Yeah, I mean, that's the real piece that I'm struggling with. I mean, I like that this location is more contained, and that everything will be, it's not a full open bar with pouring and shots and all that kind of stuff. But I know it's pretty big outside there, and without the necessity of someone going to serve the drink, there's just not going to be, it's going to be easy to get in the weeds and not pay attention. So I would personally, I mean, obviously the public hearing is still open. I would like to see a condition that not for the food, but for the drinks, that it has to be, they order a drink instead of a non-alcoholic beverage, and the server says, okay, we'll get that ready for you and bring it out.
Quick follow-up. What is the capacity of the building and both areas, building and outside total? Do you know the total?
It's limited by Amy, there is a special permit, an old special permit.
Right.
But it's limited to 50 seats. So that's what we've applied for, is 50 seats.
But is that the capacity? So there'll be 50 people, but there's 50 people and staff, or 50 people and staff and as many people as can stand not seated? Which is it? We've had, and she knows, I asked.
Yeah,
her
I
sometimes.
know. My favorite question.
And it's very hard because we're not consistent. And it's sort of like, well, porches can have as many as they want, which isn't really true, but.
Right. There's in final inspection, there'll be a COI that'll have the maximum occupancy, for the structure and for whatever that, depending on the egress and all of that sort of situation. But what he's saying is they can only provide 50 seats total per the special permit. So the maximum occupancy would be a different number to include standing, waiting, and staff. And we don't have that number till the final inspection, but that's what they're limited to as far as what they can provide.
Right. And when they
Yeah.
come and sting in the summer, they count the bodies, which you
Yes.
guys probably know from Millie's, they come and they count heads.
Yeah, and Millie's, they've had, that's a sewer situation for them.
That's a
so
septic.
That's both, it's septic
It's-
and.
Yeah,
it's both.
septic. So they're used to
It's
that
both.
number.
Malcolm?
Yes, I think I'm hearing from my fellow board members, sort of the way I'm going here is, there needs to be a lot of caution here. I think, the comments about all the young people in that area and potential of, liquor being held over the fence, et cetera. I'm concerned, I have some history of the questions of the management of Millie's, going back to my Board of Health days. I'm sure there's two sides to every story, but it is an issue and we have to consider that. Although the manager is someone not involved in any of that. I think we're going to go forward probably, but we need to find the right conditions and to do this slowly and cautiously.
Thank you, Malcolm. Brooke, and then we'll go to Rick Atherton.
So I too sat on the Board of Health when this issue came before the board around how heads were counted out in Millie's. And there's a lot of debate. And it really, to me, was not clear. And it felt as though the Board of Health interpreted the language one way and Millie's management interpreted it another way. And I would want to be very clear. And I would think, is it possible to put a condition that one may only consume alcohol if one is in one of those 50 seats?
Well, that is really the condition because it has to be on premise anyway. So you mean as far as someone standing?
Yes.
Or, yeah, I mean, they would, yeah, they have no bar set up, so someone would have to be seated.
Amy, I'm talking about,
make sure.
there's a lot of square footage between those tables that
Right.
people could be standing around with margaritas in their hands.
Yeah, I mean, that's certainly a condition that it's seated service only. And we have that on several licenses as well.
Okay.
Graydon House, some others too. So it was not a gathering spot or a large bar scene. So, and again, I think Board of Health is based on bathrooms, right? And then the other one, obviously for public safety and the building and that sort of situation. But yeah, they would have, we can certainly put that condition, seated service only.
Okay. Malcolm, do you have your hand up or is it just left over? I want to make sure I'm not missing you. Can we go to Rick Atherton? And we'll kind of go do another round, then we're going to close the public hearing here shortly. Go ahead, Rick.
Jason, thank you. There's just a couple of observations on your conversations. I think I was going to say a number of things before your conversation continued on, but I would like to suggest that Brooke's comments early on are critical. I think the board needs to understand that I'll call it mission creep. It's quite likely you approve a liquor license here, you move up Broad Street. And so we all ought to know where we're heading here. And I know everybody says, oh, that's not the problem. We'll put a lot of conditions on it. And because we have a great enforcement process, we'll make sure alcohol is not a problem on the strip. My concern is once you start, quite frankly, it's going to happen. And you can all say no, but that's the likely outcome. So I would ask the board to at least debate that subject and make clear to the voters or the public how they feel about the extension of alcohol license applications to other properties on the strip. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. I wanted to give a couple thoughts of mine and then see if we have any more comments for close the public hearing. So I'm just writing down pros. Pros for me are reputation is a pro for me. I know there are a lot of issues out in Nantucket and they deal with them every year and then more issues come up because it's such a high demand for that to go to Millie's. When I personally go out with other families with kids, some people drink, some people don't. It's table service. It's handled really well. It feels like a family friendly place with kids. So I know they can do it. So I think the reputation is a plus. I think looking at Nantucket, we almost didn't approve that, but there was conditions and we felt that we could go really slow and it was kind of so small, and we'll look at it again. On the other side, I wouldn't call this a negative, but I guess maybe what I want to be cautious about is if there's alcohol there, it will change the complexion of who's there. It just will. So it will become less of a teen hangout. It's just going to change it. And that might be okay. It's just different when there's alcohol. And I understand rents are high and it's expensive here, and alcohol, it really, it's nice for, 6 o'clock for an adult and a family to go out, have a margarita, and the kids are there. That's fine. It's the late part for me. So I think this year I would say for no alcohol license, period. Or if we are going to allow it, I would even put even more restrictions on there, similar to Nantucket at 8 o'clock, table service. Table service is, I think, the key. That's how you manage it. I think that's how you're successful at Millie's, because you have table service. You can just watch it a little more. Rick's, your original comments of what are you really worried about? My day job, getting alcohol at a restaurant is not a problem that we see at Fairwinds and for substance abuse. It's way more complicated and serious than that. So I don't think it's going to contribute to a misuse of substances, for kids or even adults, because it's very, we're just talking about, margaritas, and we can control it a little bit. But it will change the complexity of that space. And that might be what we want. We might be okay with that, but it will change. Any thoughts or comments? Else? Malcolm, do you want to make a comment?
Thinking about this and listening to it is a great conversation, and I think your summary of the pros and cons were perfect. I'm just now very, very concerned that the whole character of the strip will change. That is an area of lots of young people coming off the island. I'm not quite sure now whether it's in the interest of the island or interest of the community to have alcohol on the strip. So I'm willing to have someone convince me differently. Thank you.
Thanks, Mel. Any other comments before we close public hearing? But maybe we can go back to them if we have questions for them.
Yeah, no,
right?
absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Good, Rick.
Sorry. I think you heard Amy say that the only other place on the strip with seats, and it's really only space for a couple of seats, is Stubby's. It's the only place that has the potential to come in for a license at the moment. Everything else is tiny, isn't available. So I would say that in terms of changing the whole complexity of the strip, I think, Jason, you're right. Changes the complexity of this location, this premises, no doubt about it, for certain time periods. But, I've been to Stubby's at midnight and there's no alcohol there, and it ain't pretty either. So I don't know that it changes the complexity or the complexion of the whole strip. I think you change it to have a license in this specific location. And if that's what you're willing to do with conditions, then we'd be happy. And I think it would be a great thing for that area, really.
Your kids should ask you what you're doing there at midnight.
No,
I hope they don't hear
it
that.
might have been 30 years ago.
I would just like to add one last thing. This whole concept is really a food concept. It's not a destination drinking location. What we're going to offer is something really great for the island, in the sense that you can get food fast, reliable, not too expensive, and it's going to be high quality. It's what we do. And this is going to be known as a place that you can get in and out really quickly. You can feed your kids. You can, sit down on the nice patio. It's going to be a real sort of marquee for people coming and going, off the island, off the steamboat. We're really, really excited to bring this concept. I mean, we think it's going to be a great addition to the island. And I don't see somebody coming there and having, more than one margarita or beer with their drink, or maybe they'd have a second one, maybe. I don't see that as being the kind of situation that we're dealing with. And especially if we're going to stop service at 10 o'clock at night, I don't see how that really changes the dynamic of the kids on that block, that happens, after 9 o'clock or after 10 o'clock. So I just want to point those things out. It's going to be a family fun place, and it's going to be a place for everybody to go to. And it's really food centric. So that's it. The drinking is really, having the ability to get a beer or a margarita with your tacos is really just a compliment to the style of the food. And it goes along with our concept. And we've been successful with it. I can tell you from experience, it's not a place where people get unruly and out of control. It's just not that kind of scenario. It's not a place you're going to have multiple drinks. Okay, so thank you.
Thank you. We ready to close the public hearing? You want to keep?
We can still ask them questions, right? Yeah.
Yeah, but we're like, no more public comment, and
Right.
only if we ask questions.
Motion to
Yeah,
close,
What's that?
motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All those in favor by roll call, Matt?
Aye.
Don?
Aye.
Brooke?
Aye.
Malcolm?
Aye.
Jason, aye. Okay, we can make a motion, or we can talk amongst ourselves, flesh anything out.
I'll just say, I'm struggling to allow alcohol at all. I went 15, 20 years as the trustee of it, and, could have made a lot more money as a family having it, but didn't. And so, so I'm struggling, but I also think that if it is at a low level, like it is at Nantucket, and, like you're presenting, I think it could happen there. But if it becomes the hot spot at night and it runs till, even without alcohol, if it's running until 12, 1 in the morning, and it's, and the neighbors we're getting complaints from all the neighbors, then I think it would be an issue. So I'm on the fence about it. I'd like to say yes. I'd like to feel like we had enough control on it. Or I would, and if we can't figure out how to do that, then I would be likely to say no, just to be consistent.
Yeah, I mean, I'm struggling with just kind of knowing the sort of vibe of the strip that starts to happen after a certain time at night. But I really want to help a restaurant that seems like it will be more of a casual, family-friendly type of establishment be successful. And I feel like we're in danger of losing more and more of those on this island. We actually don't have that many left. So I like the concept. I think that putting the safeguards in, like the drinks have to be served directly to the seat. And I'm thinking that 9 o'clock would make more sense than 10. I feel like that's kind of the tip from it being a mix of parents with children to it being more adult and a lot of teenagers around. So I just feel like that would give more of a cushion between sort of different vibes.
Malcolm? Is your hand up?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, but again, yes, we need more restaurants like that, but I'm still concerned about what we call alcohol creep. So when I go into Stubby's to get my wonderful clam chowder, maybe I'll get a beer. That would be nice. And then the coffee shop decides I'm not going to be a coffee shop anymore. I'm going to be a takeout restaurant and have more alcohol. No, I know you can't take alcohol on the street, but I just see it steamrolling. I'm still waiting for a good excuse why we should approve this. Yes, we need more family restaurants. Yes, we need more restaurants, year-round restaurants, but I'm waiting for a good explanation of why we need it. Thank you.
Thanks, Malcolm. I think I was thinking of an example that you were saying more of, and this is just an example. Young's Bicycle Shop sells tomorrow, which it'll never happen, right, Harvey, Jasper? But it sells and a restaurant goes in. Would it be harder for us to deny them a liquor license because we just did it 2 doors down? And that's where the potential creep is.
Correct.
Potential.
Yeah, potential. And I mean, again, you determine the location and history of the location and what that location means, the block, the lot, the neighborhood. So it can lead to precedent. But again, if it was a new location, you do this every single time.
Mhm.
What is this location going to do to this neighborhood, or what impact on the community? But again, the onus is on the applicant to describe the benefit, how it won't be detriment in that sort of situation. So it does, but again, you have that ability.
The other thing that's impacting us, the other thing that's impacting us is the lack of need for parking downtown and waivers has changed it's easier for the planning board. They're able to say, yeah, you can do whatever you want. Go to the select board, and so it's made our job and made Amy's job a lot harder. So we have the businesses on the edges that we used to be able to, because they were negotiating for parking, the planning board was able to put tight conditions on them. That has shifted, and that burden is now on us and on Amy. And so I think that's, and so things like, one of the bike shops or both of the bike shops, which are large buildings, turning into, group hubs or whatever, that is a possibility.
Yes.
They won't have to go in front, not to beat up on you guys, but those guys, when that changes hands or when they decide they want to make more money, they'll be able to go and do something else there. And the parking requirements are waived. They're in the downtown district and they're right next to another place that has alcohol. And so, so we're not going to be able to stop it if, so that is for location. That is something that, Rick Atherton is right. This, the first thing we have to say is this something that, a hill we want to die on or not? I could argue with myself both ways, partly because I know them and I know the food is going to be great and the operation is going to be great. So, so I really want to do that. But at the same time, I think that we're, I'm struggling because if I think of the future and what's going to happen there, what could potentially happen there, there's more apartments down there than you think. I mean, I was mentioning the Judsons, but there's apartments, sort of backside of there all along up above. Some of them have families. There's Old North Wharf. We've had complaints about the thumping music from the Dreamland. They do their music night over there. It's thump, thump, thump. Now you guys aren't doing that. So that's a positive, but I'm just saying, so those are the kind of complaints that we hear. Those are what we field or Amy fields on a fairly regular basis. And so if we can find a way to do something that works for us and works for the town and works for you, then we're better off than to be coming back to it. I said that already, but.
Thank you, Matt. Dawn?
I'm having a really hard time with this because I remember when Schooners was in full swing. And it's right there. And it's like way closer to the ferry and the hub of coming into Nantucket. I'm finding the necessity for conditions on this to manage it, but I don't see a really great basis for an outright denial of it. And yes, one of the bike shops could change. I mean, that would be a massive project that would go to the planning board, that would go to they would have to do a lot. But the Rose and Crown could shut down next year too, and not even exist anymore, become a couple boutiques. So we don't know exactly what the future is going to hold, but having one along this kind of whole section of street, because I don't see where Schooners was operating as a restaurant that I'm aware of anytime soon again. It's probably, I would imagine at some point that building's going to go away entirely. And this is such a minimal liquor service, what they're proposing. Those are my thoughts. I think we did conditions.
You want to
but
give
not
us a
deny.
motion with your conditions
Oh,
that I can vote
try.
for?
I think that the table, that the drinks should have to be direct table service for any alcoholic beverages, and that service stops at 9 p.m. anything else. Everyone has to be seated.
Seated.
That's consuming.
I'll second for discussion.
Okay, thoughts?
To me, and I wanted to ask you this, Amy, on enforcement, if someone's standing with alcohol, so table service, I put it on the table, it's been served on the table. It's the consumption while seated to make sure that that's what we're clear about.
Right.
That if you're consuming alcohol, you can only be in one of those permitted
Correct.
seats.
It's seated table service only of
Yeah.
alcohol beverages.
All right.
Mhm.
And what does enforcement look like if that's not, if what I'm worried about happens?
So initially it would be a report. And again, we have a lot of folks down there as it is. It does get somewhat messy at night. So if it tends to be something that's a problem, it gets reported, something like that, it'll start out with a warning and a call to them and say, you guys need to clean this up. Look, we're getting calls on this. It's officially a warning. If it becomes a consistent problem, then that's when it can be brought back to you for a hearing. Any sort of violation. And again, I get calls a lot of times saying these things are happening. I have to go see it, or an officer or someone else from the town has to be able to at least document it. That is being a problem. And we're providing a little bit more easier access to file these complaints this year in line to what the state does. But you would have to, any sort of sanctions or discussion of the license would have to happen in this type of hearing directly. We wouldn't sanction them without bringing it to a hearing to discuss.
Really quick, just a clarification. This is for common victualler and the liquor license. So we would have to, right? So we would say we approve the common victualler.
Yep.
And so you have to add that to your motion.
Yeah, so basically, we've separated before, but it's technically a common vicular with or without alcohol is how the state looks at it. So
Okay,
it's
so
a
it's one and the
restaurant
same.
liquor license. So
Okay.
technically you would say that you approve the common vicular without alcohol, if that was your case, or with alcohol. So
That was your motion, right?
Yes.
Can we limit poured drinks as a condition? Is that permissible?
meaning limited the type of
Yeah, I mean,
poured
they're
drinks.
they're talking about canned
Or
drinks,
Pre-packaged, like pre-done.
prepackaged versus there's no way to
No.
split that.
Not really. It's,
Okay.
and you can comment on that. legally.
Sorry, just a point of clarification. They're talking about pre-mixing something, a frozen margarita machine,
Oh,
not
okay.
necessarily in a
It's-
can.
It's in a glass. Okay,
Yes.
gotcha.
But your question is, can you limit it to that? So it can't, halfway through, they're like, oh man, times are tough. Let's start pouring drinks. Can't limit that. Because if we can't limit that, then I'm a hard no.
Well, you mean limit as far as handing them a can of something rather than pouring it into a glass? Because it's
No,
technically,
just switching into making mixed drinks and cocktails.
well, all alcoholic beverages license allows them to do that.
Okay. Well,
So that
why couldn't
part,
we?
no,
We couldn't limit that? Because you can't limit types of
that would be nearly, no,
too
because
complicated.
all alcoholic beverages allows a type of beverage and it's a legal definition as far as the content of alcohol in it. We had this discussion because they initially wanted beer and wine, but the margarita obviously has the definition, and that was why they're going for all alcohol to add that
Okay.
addition. But technically, no, if they wanted to have tequila or something else, and no.
Let me rephrase that. I'm
Yeah.
not a hard no, because I've already said, and I trust the reputation. I don't think that they would go that route, but it is good to clarify because everybody has said we want to be cautious and we want to go take, baby steps here, but that could happen.
Mhm.
Rick?
Yeah, again, to clarify, I think we would accept some condition. I think it's a matter of enforcement from Amy's perspective. You can put whatever condition you want on the license if you want to issue it to us. And then stand by our reputation and call us back here. In my opinion, it's no different than serving at 901. If we're caught doing it.
Thank you.
Operationally, what you're talking about might work if the person who's bringing the drinks to the table is also the person that's making sure that there's, I know you're setting up to have no one have to do that, that it's going to be pick up at the counter. So what we're saying is going to change their model slightly if we do it. But, and correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm wrong on plenty of things. Just ask my wife. But if we did this, you could, that person could bring it out and also make sure that they're not congregating, et cetera. If you had one person assigned that was bringing the drinks to the tables as needed, would that work for you or not?
I mean, it's not part of our model, but it's important, obviously, to have that alcohol service as a complement to the food. So I think that would certainly kill two birds with one stone, what you're suggesting, Matt. And I think to Brooke's point, it would almost be sort of self-regulating if they don't get a drink unless they're seated, and then a person has to bring them the drink.
Right. You're going to get the pressure of, well, here, can I just have a draft beer? I'm waiting for my table. Can you just give me wine? I'm waiting, you're going to get that pressure. So how do you, is that something that you can, withstand, or, that would be my concern about it. Or that your staff would they be able to?
In other words, they're going to come to, first of all, yes, they're trained staff. But if they're coming to the counter to order and they order a drink, that drink doesn't get to their hands until they're seated.
It's a condition that we have.
Yeah, but that's, I don't know.
I'm trying to understand exactly what we're suggesting here, because I think if you're going to order the drink from the counter and then have somebody bring it to you, you wouldn't be able to order drinks from the person who's bringing the drink. In other words, if you wanted if say you were seated and decided you want a second drink, it's not like a wait person that you have in a conventional restaurant. So we would like, our concept is that you order your drink when you go through the chute in the line.
Exactly. And you get handed to you.
Pick up your drink, you go sit down. In many ways, I do understand the need for wanting to have that extra level of like sort of accountability and sort of watching over what's happening and monitoring it. So it's kind of like a one-to-one type of thing, so it doesn't spiral out of control. But I might add that I think that, and I do, so I see where you're coming from with that, but I might add that once again, I don't see this as a place where there's, multiple drinks per person happening. Like if you're going to just have one drink and pick it up with your tacos, you're going to finish eating your tacos and leave. It's not something that you're going to linger around. It's a fast casual place. It's not a place to congregate and stay around for a long time and go back to the counter and order, multiple more drinks. Maybe somebody would order a second round. I don't see it really as that kind of a place. And I also, as far as stopping at 9 o'clock or even 10 o'clock, I think it's really important to understand that, if we're not serving at past 9 or 10 o'clock, I see that eliminating a lot of these concerns that we're talking, just simply by the fact that we're not serving past 9 or 10 would eliminate almost all, people. And also there's one last thing I wanted to mention. I do believe there's a real extra value add to having the ability to drink a margarita or a beer with your meal. And I think there's a lot of people that might not be here to talk about it today, but a lot of our customers would be really, really happy to be able to do that there. And it's something to be considered as part of our model. We want to give people what they want. And in this case, this is something that a lot of people are going to really enjoy.
Your other surf sides, how many do you like? What's your split? What's your alcohol versus food? Like, do you have, and where are their locations? Are they all in tourist places? Or are they in?
Yeah, so we have, it's interesting. We have 3 surf sides in DC. 2 of them are just counter service where you walk up. One of them's open 24 hours. And in that location, we hardly do any alcohol service. It's about 10 to 15%, I think 10% at DuPont. The other one, that's the most recent one that we opened down on the wharf, which is down on the Anacostia River. It's more like 15%, I think 10 to 15% of our sales. And in the wharf, you can walk in, there are a few tables there, but it's generally a fast casual counter, very similar to what we're planning to do here. We do have a third surf side, which is a full service restaurant with waiters and wait staff and a big full service bar. So that's at that particular model, I would guess it's somewhere more like 25%. But in the walk-up counter models that we have in DC and what we expect to see the same sort of thing here, it's somewhere between 12%, somewhere around there.
Yeah, so it's not 50-50
No,
like some of our
absolutely not.
restaurants here.
This is the point I've been trying to make, that you all understand that we're not asking, we're not having this idea that we have a, a drinking destination spot here, really. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so the motion on the floor is, you did say table service, which means the server going to the table, taking their order. No,
No.
just
No,
delivered.
delivering the drink to the table.
I just want to be clear for the motion. So you don't have to come back and ask about it. 9 p.m. and everyone is seated.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
Is everybody clear on the motion? Any other comments? Malcolm, Matt?
Oh, the other one was manager duty phone, to make a cell phone that goes to someone, and 3 strikes, you're out. If you don't pick up the phone, if there's issues.
Yeah.
The managers have to answer their phone
Across the board.
across the both. We can't talk about the other place,
Yes.
but I
all
think, we
100.
need, like, if we, so anyway, I think that should be on there somehow if it isn't.
Is that on the motion? I didn't hear that.
It was not.
It wasn't,
Yeah.
but that was one of the things that Amy talked about earlier.
That was in the special permit, right? For the other.
That was in the discussion with Millie's.
On
and
Millie's,
we're-
yeah.
We're publishing a full list of all the licensees
right,
shortly, so people will be able to get hold of them.
All right. Well, as long as
Yeah.
it's just an understanding that this is a new
Absolutely.
thing, and we may have situations, and it would be better
Yeah.
to solve that situation quickly
Yeah.
than to have the staff calling multiple times and,
Correct.
and having the neighbors yelling at us. I don't foresee that happening, but if it does, we want to be able to get a hold of somebody. It's important. So I'll second Don's.
Yeah, it's been seconded. We were in discussion. Are we ready?
That's right for discussion? Yeah.
I don't think it's
No.
No,
necessary.
not necessary.
No, not the last part. Any other comments? Okay, are you ready for a vote? Okay, all those in favor of Don's motion with those 3 items, those conditions? Matt,
Aye.
Don,
Aye.
Brooke,
Aye.
Malcolm,
No.
Jason, no. So that passes 3-2.
Thanks a lot, everyone.
You're welcome. It was good. It was good discussion. We have to do this for all liquor licenses. We have to think of everything.
Absolutely appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Entertainment.
Just one more. Okay, so we'll open the public hearing and consider application for a new non-live entertainment license for 1 Broad Street LLC, DBA Surfside. Jared Smith is the manager for premises located at 2 Broad Street.
So this is a non-live entertainment application that has to come with a liquor license. Now it is for general streaming, background music indoors with no amplification or live music allowed.
And no implication outdoors.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay, this is a public hearing. Any comments? From those online, board members? This one's a little easier.
Keep the base down and you'll be fine. I'll move approval.
Oh,
I'll close, sorry. Move to close the public hearing.
Second.
all those in favor, Matt,
Aye.
Don,
Aye.
Brooke,
Aye.
Malcolm,
Yes.
and that's an aye for me to close the public hearing.
Move approval.
Second.
All those in favor, Matt,
Aye.
Don,
Aye.
Brooke,
Aye.
Malcolm,
Aye.
Jason, aye. That passes
Thank you.
unanimously. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
All right, thanks, guys.
Okay, Town managers report.
Okay, we have second quarter budget reports for the sewer enterprise fund, the water enterprise fund, and the airport tonight. And I think first off, we're going to do sewer. David?
Good evening, everyone. David Grace, Direct. I'll be quick and just go through that financial, the highlights page. Total revenue collected in the second quarter was up about 14% from the same quarter last year. Sewer fee income and sewer capacity fee also increased by about 5% and 91% respectively as far as fees collected and everything that's going on. It did show us a slight disposal fee decrease in the septic, but that's usually common those few first months, the last few months of the year. And so far, it's been about 67% of the projected revenue for 2023. Expenses, debt service for the second quarter decreased compared to last year. The main reason was Barnstable County retirement. It just happens to come out in a different time period. It's been different the last few years. I know that I've been doing this. Utilities up. I think everyone's utilities are up over 20%. And of course, our repair and maintenance is also up, and that has to do with the cost of everything. I mean, what used to cost $40 is now $100. So it's really starting to impact. And we saw some decreases in the professional services and sludge disposal. And the sludge disposal one is because the payment comes out after the second quarter ends. So that's the only reason that shows a decrease there. And then the debt service for the 6-month period is up 75% compared to the same period because they issued some more debt that came out and costs associated with issuance and interest on some short-term debt. But overall, we're doing very good. We're extremely busy. I think everybody's extremely busy. And the sewer projects are moving along nicely. And if there's any questions with anything, I said I'd be quick tonight. So
That was impressive.
I try. I still, there's been other people I've never been able to beat, but
No, that was it.
so, but thank you,
If you
everybody.
could just get the sewer done this quickly, it'd be a
It's-
miracle.
It is
It's
going quickly.
It's going
It is.
okay.
They are. It's
Yeah.
amazing. It's
It's,
a huge, you just don't, I didn't realize what a project it was until you see these guys and I drive by them a couple times a day.
I mean, when
It's
the
unbelievable.
machine's as wide
Oh.
as the entire street, these guys are talented. I'm very, very lucky. So, and Libby and I are going to be going out on a field trip in another week or so to take and go to all the projects. So it's been good. She's been out a couple of times already. So I think she's even scratched her head a couple of times, like, what are they gonna? But it's been good. So, thank you.
Thanks, Dave.
Thanks, David. Mark, are you on?
Yeah, I am. It's good to see you guys. I think David's talking about me. You're getting close to my record, Dave. That was quick. We had a great second quarter. I'm going to say probably the busiest second quarter Wannacomit's ever had. Water fees were up. Water connection fees were up. Just in that 3-month period, we did close to 65 new connections in the second quarter alone. And for the first half of the year, we're over 100. We pumped 112 million gallons in that time frame, which was up from the quarter last year. That puts us at the first half of the year, the first 6 months, halfway through it, like 460 to 461 million gallons of water pumped. That's also up. And I need to thank my staff. I mean, we're smaller than we've ever been in 20 years, and we're doing this kind of work. And it can't be done without them. I'm very lucky to have the staff I have. I couldn't do this without them. I mean, they're the bulk of this work getting done. As far as expenses go, I want to point out that our inventory was down this quarter. I don't want that to be misconstrued in any way by you guys. It was down because we couldn't get the supplies. Things were ordered and we don't pay for it till they come in, right? So that number was down this quarter, but believe me, in the quarters to come, next quarter, things are starting to come in. That number is going to bounce back up and be, as David just mentioned, the $40 part is now 110. So that I just didn't want any misunderstandings there. We're doing this amount of work and it takes money for that inventory. So that number is definitely going to bounce back. We did spend more this quarter on professional services than the previous years. That's directly related to the new well out in Pulpus, 43 Pulpus. We're getting ready to start a pump test and get that permit process going. I know the forms were sent to Libby. Libby, thank you for signing those and getting that back to DEP to kind of complete the permitting process for the pump test. So that's what those services for. All in all, we're in a good place and really busy and doing a lot of work.
Just one quick question. Based on how much water we're pumping, can you estimate how many people are here right now? Is there a standard?
There is, pumpage has been up, and I know it's kind of difficult because someone could say, yeah, I have a new connection, a new house went up. I don't know if it's really new water use. It might be water use that was in a garage apartment that is now in an apartment on Old South Road. So some use is just moving to different locations, and not all the use is new. Get to these kind of numbers, there has to be a certain amount that's new, and I could take a closer look at that, and there are ways to guesstimate based on water use what the population is.
Yeah, I just, no, it's all right, Mark. I was just, if you said off the top of your head, it's, 330 gallons a day or whatever, and you could divide the one by the other, and we could guesstimate. That's all. I was just asking that because someone asked me today, geez, it seems like there's more people here still. And I just was wondering if, anyway.
Well, we're definitely pumping more water than we have in previous years this time of year. I mean, usually that second quarter is pretty slow, right? I mean, we start to slow down. It might get the little bump at Thanksgiving and a little bump around Stroll and Christmas time, but definitely increased for sure.
Here's a question. Do you know where it's going? Like, do you have it separated by areas like, the Cliff or Old South Road or Surfside? Do you have that specificity or no?
Most of it is on the Wannacomet side, Rotary, Mid-Island, in town.
That's what I would
We
guess.
can
All right.
just based off which pump produces more, which tank is being affected the most, whether it's the one on Cliff Road or the one over here. So it's usually this time of year, the bulk of it is definitely town and Mid-Island, towards Old South, Mid-Island, and into town.
Yeah. Okay, thanks.
Thank you very much, Mark. Have a good night. Airport, Noah?
Okay, good evening, everybody. I'm going to go right to the airport summary page. Thank you. So looking at the airport summary numbers, it's a mixed bag. I think I'm going to echo what you've already heard from Mark and from David. The summary at its surface shows two positive items. I think Jamie and Tom having built this budget, deserve a lot of credit. The first is that we've made our revenue budget for the year in the first 6 months. And that, 6 months in, we're at 50% of our budgeted expenses. But there are a number of second level items that don't necessarily show up in the summary that deserve some caution. The first is that expenses are currently outpacing our revenue growth, 78% versus 29%. And this is a mixed bag as well. We're still reflecting an anomaly in our payroll expenses. In fiscal year 22, we were still receiving a CARES Act reimbursement against payroll, which reduced that payroll expense. And for quarters and for fiscal year 23, we're showing true payroll at this time. We also haven't had the Barnstable County retirement payment withdrawn yet, and we've made additional payouts for some long-serving staff retirements in 23. The major driver of our increased revenue is from fuel sales. However, our operations continue to decrease. Airlines are reducing operations. There are fewer operations at the airport. And the biggest item is that corporate aviation tracks very closely with economic indicators, especially GDP. And there's a great deal of caution in this market right now. For February to date, we're pumping fuel at about 2019 numbers, which, while those aren't bad numbers, it's not the fuel sales rate that has been on fire throughout 2001 and 2022. So the take-home point to make is that the best revenue quarters are behind us, but our expenses will continue to accrue because of timing elements and because of inflation. Be happy to take any questions.
No questions. Thank you, Noah.
Welcome.
That might have even been quicker than David. Thanks, Noah.
And just a thought about these reports. These are really important, have been really important. It's something that it took a number of years to get to this level of financial, and it was something that we were asking for, the select board was asking for 15 years ago. And I'm very impressed with where we have, with Brian and Libby and where these guys have gotten. But I also wonder if we could, maybe not have to do this as often. Maybe it's, maybe it's a little less often, or maybe we can change the focus on some of these to what are the other tasks that are being done and sort of track that. Sort of like Coastal Resiliency was talking about, here are the 40 items and they're coming in and saying, here's where we are. Maybe we should be, and it's just an idea. I'm sort of in select board comment, I guess, in a way, but is there something, are there other things we want to track from some of these departments and maybe make them part of it? It's something just to I'm planting a seed for us to think about. Thank you.
Okay, next, the monthly town management report. I didn't get an opportunity to develop the written report for your packet, so I was just going to give you a bit of a verbal. We've been spending a lot of time lately on the following: preparations for the May 6, 2023 annual town meeting. There are FinCom meetings a couple of times a week and lots of activity getting motions ready. The FinCom will be wrapping up its motions over the next 3 weeks. And you all have a joint meeting with FinCom, Planning Board, and yourselves on Monday, the 20th, at which the FinCom and the Planning Board will review with you all their motions. And the following Wednesday, the 22nd, you'll be making your comments to articles. We are finalizing fiscal 2024 budgets. Eric is spending some good amount of time on the fiscal 2022 annual town report. We have a lot of collective bargaining negotiations underway, recruitment efforts for several town positions. We have several concurrent projects going on, including, as you know, the Surfside area water main extension and associated transportation improvements. And we're planning an update for you all in March, end of March. March 22nd. Thank you. And we've got, of course, ongoing PFAS testing and other associated activities with PFAS, solid waste long-term planning, Baxter Road alternative access. We are working on an update for you on that sometime in April. In the end of April. And we've got a lot of meetings in the interim there with abutters and staff. We're planning for a joint meeting with the Select Board and the Conservation Commission in connection with the Siasconset bluff erosion control measures, and that is currently planned for March 21st. Hopefully that will be a go. We are initiating planning for Newtown Road and Pleasant Street road reconstructions, Spring Road and sidewalk work planning, stormwater drainage projects. David and I spent a good amount of time today going over those. And we are going to be reviewing projects that are contained in the sewer master plan. So those are some of the things that we're most active right now. That's it for the town manager's report, unless anybody has any questions.
Any questions for Libby? Okay. Okay, any committee reports or comments from board members?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Are we going to talk again on our agenda, anything about Ms. Perry's comments at the beginning of the meeting today about some more official statements or progress about what happened at Surfside Crossing?
I don't think there's any agenda items coming up. I think at least from the chair's position, I don't see any need for an agenda item. I think the town manager said, here's what happened. We looked into it. Here's what we're doing to make sure it never happens again. But that's up to the town manager if she wants to take action with any employees, staff, not a select board decision.
And the rest of the select board is happy with that?
Well, I think we have to be careful about talking about staff on camera. If you have questions, I would say, Malcolm, I would say, go talk to Libby. Set up a meeting and go talk to Libby about it, because we have to wade very carefully into criticizing employees on the camera. So.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, but I think it makes sense for the public to know with these type of things, how it got missed and what we're doing to make sure it never happens. Like, I think that's a legitimate, just within transparency to talk to, which Libby did, and I just kind of reiterated what's happening. Thank you, Malcolm. Anything else? Okay, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All by roll call. Matt?
Aye.
Dawn?
Aye.
Brooke?
Aye.
Malcolm?
Aye.
Jason, aye. Thanks, everyone.